about to dive into something very special today. A full explanation on how to build the fastest Arrancar in all of Roblox. We'll be talking abilities, stats, and how to get them all. So if you've ever wanted to know how to make your Arrancar the strongest it can possibly be, then this is the video for you. Now before we start, I do want to say that this guide will only work for people who have already gotten their Arrancar mask. This isn't going to be a tutorial on how to get the mask itself, because there are already plenty of those out there. And besides, I think it would take forever to make a video covering all of the different methods, since there are so many at this point. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's begin. The first thing I want to talk about is the best overall ability for your Arrancar, and it's definitely going to be Sira. Now, you may be thinking, wait, what about Bala? Well, despite what some people might say, Bala is actually a pretty bad ability, and I'm going to explain why later on. But for now, let's just focus on Siro. To get it, you'll need to defeat the Reaper boss rush in the Mino zone. This boss rush consists of 3 waves, each with its own unique Reaper boss. Now, the first 2 waves aren't really that difficult, but the third one can be pretty challenging. You will need a team for this. Unfortunately, you cannot solo it, and I recommend that everyone in your party be around level 300 or higher. The higher the better. Also, you'll want to make sure that everyone has a strong Zanpakuto ability. If your teammates don't have good abilities, then the run will probably end up being much more difficult. In terms of strategy, my suggestion would be to defeat the first wave, then have everyone switch places in the second wave, so that you can defeat that boss from a different angle. Finally, for the last wave, I suggest that you stay close to your teammates and attack from the side. Try to avoid getting hit by the boss's attacks. If you do get hit, then switch places with someone else on your team, so that you can regenerate your health. And when the boss starts to use its ultimate move, which is the purple beam attack, I suggest that you just run away from it and regroup somewhere else on the map. The key is to not stand directly in front of the boss when it does this attack, because the damage is insane. Assuming you and your team survive, you'll then be able to spawn in the Reaper boss. From here, all you have to do is defeat it to obtain Sira. Make sure that everyone on your team is using their strongest ability while you're fighting it, especially if you're on the last phase, because it can be quite tough. As long as everyone does their part though, then you should be able to come out victorious. I also recommend that you bring some potions just in case things get rough. Now, once you defeat the Reaper boss, every member of your team will be rewarded with the Zero ability regardless of whether or not they already had it. However, it is important to note that even though everyone gets the ability, they will still need to equip it separately within the Arrancar menu. After you've done that, you can finally use Zero whenever you want. And it's actually quite easy to use. All you have to do is come to your sword and hold down the right-click button. Then, while you're charging it, click the left-click button and release it to fire the Syro. It's that simple. The reason I consider this ability to be the best is because it's an instant cast. It's super strong, especially at higher levels. It doesn't cost any energy, and it looks awesome. Literally, nothing else even comes close. In my opinion, Bala is the next best ability. But there are several problems with it. For starters, it takes a few seconds to charge up, which leaves you vulnerable to incoming attacks. Plus, it can easily be dodged if the enemy knows what they're doing. Not to mention the fact that it only does about half the damage of a well-placed Zero. If you're in a group of enemies, then yes, Bala can be better because it does spread to other opponents, but it's still not as good as Zero, in my opinion. Next, I want to talk about stats. There are 4 of them: strength, agility, intelligence, and endurance. To increase these stats, you will need to defeat hollow minions, bosses, and the bosses of each zone. Once you've defeated enough enemies, the game will reward you with stat points. Where you choose to spend these points is completely up to you. However, I do have a suggestion for you. I suggest that you put at least 50 points into each of the 4 stats. Do UNT put all of your points into just one of them? Or else you will be severely underprepared for certain situations. For example, if you were to max out strength but neglect the other stats, then you would be extremely weak against enemies who can stun you. And there are plenty of those in the game. If you don't believe me, just ask anyone who has tried to solo the Reaper boss rush with only the strength stat maxed out. Speaking of strength, It is the most important stat for any ability user, because it allows you to deal more damage. This means that your Zero will hit harder and your Balo will hit harder if you decide to go with that ability. Next is agility. This stat determines how fast you can dodge. If you have maxed out agility, then your dodge button will become blue whenever you're dodging. This is the optimal state for your dodge because it means that you have the fastest dodge speed possible. You'll want to make sure that you have enough agility for this, because if you don't, then you'll be vulnerable to incoming attacks. Intelligence increases the damage you take from enemies and the strength and duration of debuffs that you may encounter. The last thing you want is to have a nasty debuff that weakens you for a long time, so I'd suggest putting at least 50 points into intelligence. Finally, endurance increases your health regeneration and maximum health. The higher your endurance is, the longer you'll be able to stay in the fight without having to heal yourself. Since healing is a major problem for ability users, I'd highly suggest maxing out this stat. Next, I'm going to be going over the best sword in the game. No spoilers, it's definitely not the Meow Meow sword. The absolute best sword in the game is the Zaraki sword. To get it, you must defeat Zaraki, which is the final boss of the Shinigami zone. Now this boss is no joke. He is insanely strong and fast. For this fight, you will need to be level 400 or higher and have a strong Zanpakuto ability. I'd recommend bringing some potions too, just in case things get tough. Now the reason I suggest you be level 400 or higher is because if you re-lower than that, then Kenpochi will just destroy you. Trust me, I've tried. As far as strategy goes, it's really just a test of your skill. If you can dodge his attacks and land hits on him, then you should win. Just try to stay on the sides of the arena and only attack him from there. It's much safer and you won't have to worry about being caught off guard. If you successfully defeat Kenpachi, he will drop either the Zangetsu or Zaraki sword. Both of these swords are equally good, but if you already have Zangetsu, then I suggest getting the Zaraki sword. These swords have special effects. They can stun weaker enemies, and they come with an extra ability called Beast Within. This ability makes you invincible for a short period of time, but it does leave you extremely vulnerable afterwards. Only use it when you're in a pinch. Finally, we've reached the last part of the video. I'm gonna tell you how to get all of the different emotes. Emotes are pretty simple. They're basically just for fun. And they don't really offer any benefit in combat. To get them, you just have to do some basic parkour puzzles. The first one is the sword/emote. All you have to do is come to this wall and jump onto it. Then walk across the beams until you reach the end. The second one is the get down emote. For this one, you'll need to head over to the forest area. Then come to this tree and jump onto it. Finally, the last emote is the crouch emote. You'll need to go to the beach area and come to this rock here. Then jump onto it. And that's it! Now you know how to build the fastest Arrancar in all of Roblox. Good luck and have fun! Thank you for watching!